everything okay?
It's just work stuff.
We're not supposed to tell my family. We're poor now, and Daddy's going to prison.
Well, yeah, I guess the first place to start is just like I guess with White Lotus and just the phenomenon that is this season, which is interesting for me because it's the first time that I've been able to be a part of this like White Lotus phenomenon from like the beginning of a season onwards. I think I jumped in season 2 like halfway through when my girlfriend was watching, and so I'm still kind of getting used to just the White Lotus as a thing. And now seeing the way it's blown up, it's just kind of an incredible thing to be a part of, I have to imagine.
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, so my family had watched it. Like you, I wasn't part of it because they'd started watching without me. So they wouldn't let me come in the room. Then when you got to watch from the beginning, Dad, season 1, and I never caught up. And then they started watching season 2. They wouldn't let me sit with them in the front on the couch because they went, "You didn't watch season 1 yet. You got to go and watch it." I'm like, why am I banned from my own front room? But when I got the job, I binged them both and went, "Oh, it's really good." But no matter how good it is, and I'm a huge fan of Mike's. I've been a fan of Mike's for a very, very long time before the White Lotus. No one could have predicted what happened with this season. It was something quite extraordinary. I mean, granted, I'm inside the bubble, and I've been doing the publicity for it for what seems like my entire life now. But nonetheless, it's for every country we go to and everywhere we go. It's just the scale of it has just staggered all of us involved. No one really knows why. I mean, sometimes things just capture the zeitgeist, and the fact that people talk about it all week and talk about it at work, this fictitious water cooler conversation that you hear talked about, it doesn't really happen. It did happen with White Lotus. People talk about it. You go to coffee shops, people are talking about it. People talking about it in the Facebook groups. People actually having little groups to do nothing but talk about it. And that actually, last time it happened, I was a teenager, and it was about who shot JR in Dallas. But the young people think it's new. Like, it's not new. That's what television used to be like when there were few channels and the whole country was watching the same show, and you had to wait a week for the next episode. What streaming did is it took that away because you could watch a whole season in a night. I'm a huge binger. Like, if I like something, I just don't go to bed. I wait till the sun comes up and I've finished it.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do you think? What do you think is the key for a show to kind of like catch on like that, to have the ability to capture the zeitgeist week to week? Because I mean, there are plenty of shows that have tried to do it, and those shows that fail get canceled. We saw that on like network television and stuff like that.
I've been in quite a few of those.
Well, I'm still mad about Awake, but that's a different conversation.
Mad about the OA. I'm more mad about the OA.
Well, yeah. I mean, those two are obviously. I don't think they weren't given the chance that I think they deserve. But in the case of White Lotus, I mean, what is what's the secret? I mean, to maintaining that interest week to week.
So that's a question that I was asked in a different form about Harry Potter a million times. Why is it successful? And I like the sound of my own voice, and I can form sentences, and I could give you a million theories. Nobody has any idea why something is as successful as this. I'm speaking to you from Los Angeles. I live in London, but I'm here briefly for a work visit. And everybody around me talks about how they do know, they have some idea, or they know why it is, and God knows they're trying to repeat it. Nobody knows why things like that work. If you're making Coke, you can work, you can research different branding and new Coke, and you can dump it. Nobody knows when it comes to storytelling. Nobody has slightest idea. And so, which is why when something is good and happens, they want to milk every which way but loose, and they want to make, put Roman numerals after it if it's a film and make it forever till the actors are on walking frames and stuff. Like this, with Mike White, he did something. He wrote these stories, and they've got bigger and bigger. Clearly, nothing has ever been as big as this season 3, and now they're thinking, I know what the answer is. The answer is Mike White. Everyone just needs to work with Mike White. Everyone in the world needs to work with Mike White. Well, even Mike White doesn't know what the hell why he doesn't know. He writes these great stories and directs them, and they're still just stories. And this one, I don't know, spread like I won't say wildfire. Wildfire is a bad tasting to. But it spread around the world. And, you think it might. I don't know if you think it's just America, but we, the cast, spread ourselves all over the world because we do publicity. And you'd arrive in Spain, you go, shit, it's bigger in Spain than it's in America, or Germany or Australia.
Right.
You can't take away from the fact, or rather, I don't distract from the fact, it's magnificent writing. And there's something else he does, which he doesn't get credit for, which he gets plenty of credit, but his direction, the way, the atmosphere he creates on set, and the atmosphere of kind of controlled anarchy and improvisation and freedom, but gentle guidance. And that combination of whatever he does to make the set that place is the reason that not just White Lotus, but his indie movies as well have this unmistakable ring of humanity, this sense of something recognizable and entertaining and shocking and provoking and resonant. He's that kind of writer with everything he does, but with this, he's just found, he's found the perfect form.
It's also kind of speaks to the fact that like each of these seasons kind of comes from just personal experience, but and not necessarily in the way you would think. I mean, obviously this one deals more in like his spiritual side with Buddhism and stuff like that. But like with the first season, I mean, it was just kind of like quirky observations he had about just like society and people and behavior. And I think that's something that's just universally like relatable. Like it's fun to watch people in a pressure cooker kind of unravel in a sense. And it's this weird,
I mean, also,
yeah.
you know, he's just better at doing it than other people. Like
Well, I mean, sure, yeah.
Why are some people really, really good at it? Like, why is Usain Bolt faster than the other people 100 meters? He's just fast. He just is. Mike writes these things, and I get it. It's the job of people who talk about them in the press or on camera to try and summarize them or to conflate them or somehow distill it but you can't. Isn't an Eat the Rich show? Well, maybe there are 50 other Eat the Rich shows. Do we want to see people with more money than us having a bad time? Yeah, but also not just that. He's not static as an artist. This season is not season one, like you said. It's different, and he doesn't set out. This is the thing. I think I'm not in the writers' room with him. No one is. No one's inside his extraordinary mind. But he doesn't. These people aren't conduits or symbols. It was interesting when the first couple of episodes been on, and it generated so much press. And I read lots of it. People saying what they think the characters are, what they symbolize, what they represent. They don't know Mike. He doesn't. He's not judging anybody, and these characters speak to him, and they reveal themselves, and they're very rarely the things that they don't stay in the boxes you want to put them in. Patrick's character being a prime example. People going, "Oh, he's just like Jake Lacey from season one." No, he's not, because at some point he came to me and did that scene so beautifully in episode 6 or 7 where he goes, "I'm nothing," and you realize, oh yeah, all these pickup lines with girls, they don't work.
Yeah.
He goes, "I'm nothing. I'm nothing without you. If you don't succeed, I'm nothing," and when I realized I have to kill him, out of love. Right.
I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's like it's kind of the mantra, I guess, of the show, specifically this season, was the way he was challenging. I think he phrased it like the concretization of identity, which really speaks to like everything you were just saying. I mean, that's kind of him as a person. He kind of rejects stagnancy and is kind of just a very open person, which is I mean, I have to imagine that's him, but also that comes from being an actor as well. You have to be open to all sorts of experiences,
Yeah, he's more open. He's more curious. He's less judgmental. Whenever you're having conversation with him, he's if conversations are about people agreeing sometimes and then disagreeing other times to fight, whenever I go, yeah, and I say and as if yes, I've got your train of thought, and this is the next thing, and he'll go, no, and it'll be some other direction I wouldn't have thought that his mind would have gone in. Also, I just think he's curious. For instance, the guy I'm playing, Tim.
Yeah.
He lays out his stall when he gets there, and he goes, "I'm not interested in any of this spiritual bullshit. I'm not. It's all it's nonsense. I just want to go to the gym." He's an alpha male, money-driven. Status. He's not status obsessed. His wife is, but it's about power and dominance and being an alpha. And so he takes that character of all the characters on a massive spiritual journey. He strips it down to his bare id or ego. I'm not even quite sure which one is which. Until he's nothing. Till he recognizes he's nothing, till he recognizes he's just a drop of water. And he has Mike doesn't believe in giant sentimental changes, and these are not stories of redemption by any means. If you look at what happens to Belinda or Guy Talk or stuff, but for this guy, he takes him on this huge journey where he's stripped down till he's nothing, till he realizes, till he thinks he'd rather die and kill the people he loves, until he gets to another place where he goes, I want to live and I'm nothing. I'm just a member of the human race, and my family should be too, and they're going to have a massive fall from grace. It will be the best thing that happened to them.
Yeah,
because that's part of what he wants to explore too. He's a guy with enormous status, Mike. Shelves full of awards and plenty of money and lovely, home and all the stuff, and the entire media world at his fingertips. And some part of him is thinking, what does this mean to me? Does it mean anything? Should it mean anything? How attached am I to it? He's just such a curious person about humanity. Put me through the fucking ringer, the character at least. And just, there aren't many people doing that. I mean, I produce a little bit as well as being an actor. But I'm in those development meetings around people with scripts, and people are always reaching for things that they've seen before or done before, or they like something else. And in fact, when you're pitching, you have to go, this is like that. These are the comps. If it's a movie, you go, he just doesn't want to be or tell stories like anyone else. He just wants to be taken on a very human journey. So is that part of the explanation why I was successful? Yeah.
I would say so.
But there's something intangible as well. Like
Yeah,
it just was.
Well, I mean,
some magic happened.
Yeah. I mean, there always is with big phenomenons like this, and I think to your point earlier about people always trying to replicate that, there is that intangible factor that we always miss. I am curious, just given your collaboration with Mike, what were maybe some of the ways that working with him has now informed your process as a producer, if it has at all?
Oh God, no! It might inform you as a director. It's not as a producer. I mean, he's unique talent.
Well, okay. Well, so now has
he
inspired you to maybe start directing projects of your own?
Yeah, but he's directing this brilliant script that he happened to write as well. Everything's got to be in line for something to end up as good as the White Lotus. His imagination is amazing. He writes it brilliantly. He chooses great collaborators around him. He casts people just right. I mean, I'm not arrogant enough to say me, but certainly the other people I was watching, I thought were cast perfectly. Yeah, I think I'll leave the camera rolling more. There's a desire for directors to talk too much. I like talking. It was one of the interesting things about playing Tim. He didn't get many words to convey the catastrophe inside his head. Big bright man, his mind is full of thoughts. And at first, how can I get out of this? And then playing out the different scenarios of shame and disgrace that he'd rather avoid. And then, a whole bunch of other spiritual things. But anyway, with Mike, less is more. He'd often just go again, and then it very gently he'd offer up these suggestions so gently, like a soap bubble. They were solid gold. Sometimes I watch other people around me miss them and not realize that what he was really saying is, you might want to do this, and you did always want to do that thing. But also he trusted the actors. If he'd start cackling behind the camera, this hilarious laugh and screaming laugh he'd have. Then he'd go, "Hey, why don't you try?" And then he'd throw some mad suggestion out. Yeah. He gave himself a lot of choices in the edit. He didn't narrow things down, and we all, I don't know about other people, I trusted him enough to give him many, many choices. Yeah. Which is difficult when you're in a kind of suicidal despair, and to make it faster or funnier or slower or more regretful or something. I don't normally like to give directors those choices. That's what I think I'm hired for. My decision making, because you do a scene in March, and then you storm out the room, and you come out the room in July, in a different place, and you're going to be in the same. So that you go, no, I'll do my bit, and you do your bit. But with Mike, I will go, what, let's do it together, because you're going to have to cut this together, and you've got 8 stories to tell. So, am I inspired by him? I mean, there's inspiration, and there's also it's intimidating. It was great. The work was great. You could tell the work was good and great. And watching the stuff that I didn't see, I mean, I kind of fell in parental love with Patrick, Sam, and Sarah Catherine. So I didn't see the stuff they shot that was about me. And watching back and watching all of them, everybody, watching Carrie, and seeing how they're just all at the top of their game, because it's great writing, great direction, and they're brilliantly cast, and they just fly. It doesn't happen by accident. He doesn't get enough credit as a director for creating an atmosphere of creation.
Yeah. I think that's very on point there. I think everyone thinks of just like the crazy stuff that happens, the big reveals, the just kind of whatever. But that you're so right. There's a tone and there's an atmosphere that is so. I mean, it's like, who else could think of it other than him? Because
also, how do you get actors to get to that, to get to the place where they do the best work?
Yeah.
And he said something weirdly. My daughter, who's only 19 and is not Mike White, but please God will be, she wants to be a director, a writer-director. She's at college, and she's directed a couple of plays. And she's in Montreal, so we went to see one of the plays, and we were sitting around afterwards, and somebody else, not me, because she won't talk to me about acting or directing, because I'm her dad. Someone else said, "Well, how do you direct actors?" She's 19. She's never watched it on set, and she went, "Well, it's always the same, isn't it? It's a compliment sandwich." She goes, "You tell them they're great, tell them the thing you want, then you tell them they're great again, then you walk away." And I'm like, how the fuck did you learn that? But Mike comes out from behind the monitor. He goes, "Awesome, great, neat. That was fantastic. Yeah, let's go again." And then as he's walking away, he turns around as if it's really an afterthought. He's not even sure of it, and offers up something very gently. And those things are just solid gold. Those things he drops off, and that is a way to empower actors and make them think that you love what they're doing, even if you think it's terrible and completely wrong. and so you just feel, it's like a hovercraft. You feel you're working on a cushion of air.
Yeah, that's remarkable. I mean, I've spoken with a lot of actors and have spoken with a lot of actors specifically about collaboration, but I've never like that. What you just said right there is so. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, that's something that you don't get a lot.
No, and also there's something people don't understand about actors, and a lot of directors don't understand about actors as well, even veteran ones. You do a take and someone says cut, and then they start walking towards you. And they are perfectly entitled and aware, and able to say, I just don't believe it. Sorry, don't believe it. Or now it's one thing when they go, what if the guy doesn't want her to know he's that upset? Or what if he, and make suggestions for choices the character might be making inside their head consciously.
Mm-hmm.
But they can always just go, I don't know, I just didn't believe it. And you're aware of that as an actor, because I'm trying to be, I was as close to suicidal and homicidal and depressed and terrified as I ever want to be in life, as Tim Ratliff. He's in a dark place, and that's where you have to get to in your head, in your imagination, as much as possible. And I do it as much as possible. I'm still aware that I'm on a set because there's a mark there and I've got some lights. Someone else has some lights. So as much as it's like a magic eye picture when you're trying to focus a foot behind something, at any point you can be snapped out of it and you can't see the picture anymore. So you're trying to be this thing. You get snapped out of it by a director at any point. You're always vulnerable. I don't care if you're Laurence Olivier, you're Marlon Brando, whoever you are, you're Brad Pitt and you're producing it and you're getting paid $200 million. Still at any point the director goes, it didn't seem like you were angry to me. Or you need to make yourself that vulnerable. So Mike is aware of that. And it always came out, always made everyone feel that he bought everything they were doing. And I thought it was wonderful. Was this a good idea? If not, forget it. Don't worry. Don't do it. It's generous and brilliant as a director.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's
efficient. Yeah. Or not efficient. It's effective. You have to make people feel like you buy what they're doing, even if what you want them to do is the complete opposite.
Yeah. Well, and I think the kind of going into Tim a little bit, specifically in your performance, what I think was really interesting and what I'm getting the sense of how he pushed you is, like, I know starting with a voice is your way into character, and obviously Tim has this iconic accent. It's authentic, right? Like that. It's not. You
don't want to go there.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna. But anyway, but I know that voice is a way into the character, and yet he is such a silent character at the same time. So I'm curious, I guess for you find your way into Tim, and he does have lines through the voice. But I mean, how does that?
It's not that I find my way in through the voice. No, the guy's world is falling apart. And
right. Okay.
So it's not that. It's just that the first thing I do is go, how does he speak? But I don't find my way into it. It's just that if the wrong sound comes out of my mouth when I do speak, I'm distracted. If I walk the wrong way, if I'm wearing clothes, I go, he would never wear this. I just don't want to be distracted from the real job, which is filling up this human being from the inside out, all of his thoughts and all of his memories and all of his feelings and all of his reactions to everybody. And then some of it shows to the audience. It's not my job to go, is this little bit I'm showing to the audience, does it convey that 99% of all the work I'm doing, the duck's legs under the water? I hoped it would. I was very nervous, frankly, that the audience would just think he was this stoned idiot sitting in the corner who didn't care. I wanted them to know that his entire world was disintegrating and everything he ever thought he was and everything he ever thought he might be, and that of the people he loves around him too. But I didn't have the words. But the voice doesn't do it. Nothing does it for me. It's all the inside. But I don't want to be distracted by something on the outside that stops me taking my imagination there.
Right. That's sort of the way that you get, I guess, comfortable with a character then. Is through that, because
he's the most uncomfortable person.
Right? Yeah. I mean, he looks like he's crawling out of his own skin.
It's a funny thing, when I think about Thailand. They asked about what it was like in Thailand and stuff, and what was the work like. When I think about the work, like I loved working with Mike. I love being on the set, and I'm normally the joker on this, the idiot, doing the terrible practical jokes that go wrong or whatever. And I had a couple of really bad accidents in this thing where I fell into things, and and I like to have a laugh with the crew. I like to make sure everyone remember all the time we're doing this fun job and we're blessed to be able to do it.
Right.
Tim's in a really terrible place. And I don't want to put it on like a mask. I want it to fill up from the inside, like I said. So, I'm staying in someone else's place, and every time someone comes to the front door, it says it on the speaker.
It's all good.
So, Yeah, my memories of it are weird, and particularly when I watched it. We had a screening of the finale in Los Angeles, and it was fun, and everyone was there, and they were laughing and stuff. And I'm looking at this guy, and you have a weird kind of cellular sense memory of how utterly miserable and terrified and disturbed, really disturbed he is, because he thinks the best thing to do in life is kill himself and his entire family. I'm not, of course, I'm pretending, but I'm trying not to. I'm trying to feel it. I'm trying to be that thing as much as I possibly can. And it was so I'm watching it. It was weird watching it in Los Angeles with people roaring with laughter, roaring, particularly when I realized I was going to have to kill Piper when she said, "Oh, I am a spoiled princess." I'm like, everyone's laughing. The whole place, like hundreds of people just laughing and laughing. Like, can you not see the existential heartbreak that I'm in?
I mean, a part of it is, I would imagine most of it is due to just the uncomfortability of it. I think that's, going back to Mike, that is the thing that I think kind of, people don't really know how to act, and so they just laugh, right? Because it's like, oh
no, I'm happy they're laughing. I'm
yeah.
Don't think they're wrong. I'm saying that's his brilliance. He does that.
Yeah.
I've watched the things at home by myself when they sent us stuff to. We were doing press, and we binged it all together, my wife and I. And you don't really laugh when you watch stuff by yourself. I don't know if you know any stand-ups. Like I've known some stand-ups. You sit at dinner with them, and you're like, they're very, very annoying. They're trying bits out all the time.
That's very true. Yeah.
The same bits. If I'm sitting in an audience and I bought a ticket, I'm crossing my legs, trying not to wet myself. So there's something, you watch things in a crowd. This is why cinema and theater are such a phenomenal means of mass communication, storytelling, and it's a tragedy if we all stay at home and watch television and movies die, because movies are slightly dying on their ass. Indie movies for adults are not attended in the cinema really hardly anymore. Young people's films, horror films, and big tentpole films go, but in between that market is dying. It's such a shame, because even watching White Lotus with a big crowd, we all had a very different reaction than if we'd been watching it at home.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
very much. You're right. What Mike does brilliantly in a more dramatic form than Ricky Gervais does is discomfort. He does discomfort so magnificently. The subtleties, the minute gradations of people's internal discomfort.
Yeah, I mean, I think to the Sam Rockwell scene. I mean, I think that's the perfect, because it's just you're listening to this just insane story, and I mean, like, Walton Goggins sells it, right? Like, I mean, that's his reaction is all of our reaction.
I mean, that's a very extreme one, and
yeah.
It's a fantastic scene. Don't get me wrong, but I'm talking about the micro discomforts between the three friends. What says I voted Trump? How do you move on there? Or someone's drinking a glass of wine too much, to go out and go, she's drinking a lot, and they come back in. Just that he's aware of. You might look at a scene that seems completely normal, and he is aware of all the subcurrents and subtext and invisible forces that are driving people or shutting people up, or the things that people aren't saying. In an extreme scene like Sam's, it's more. I'm not saying they didn't do it brilliantly, but it's more obvious. That thing, more dramatic, but we've all been in those other situations. I thought that was magnificent stuff when Natasha Belinda goes over to the other black couple, going, "Oh, good, some other black people here."
Right?
They're not interested in talking to her. She was expecting one thing, she didn't get it. Or when I loved it when the three ladies come over to us at breakfast, the Ratliffs, right at the beginning. Victoria doesn't want to talk to them. She doesn't want to talk to them. She's like, I didn't come on holiday. I don't want them to be my friends. I don't want to talk to me at the pool. I want to be in my family, and so she's rude to them. It's these tiny microaggressions, and he's so magnificent at charting.
Yeah, well, I think the thing between the three friends, was there was so much to relate about that, as just being like someone who will go back home every now and then and like reconnect with like high school friends and stuff like that. And he just nailed the passage of time and how you're like grappling with who you knew these people to be versus where you are now.
What is an old friendship? Is it
exactly? Yeah.
If you have nothing in common nowadays, how do you? Anyway, he's so great at that. But it's always so weird trying to analyze why the show was as big as it was, because even given all those things, something else happened. I don't know what happened in the world. It was extraordinary.
No, for sure. Speaking specifically about Tim, I mean, there is this. You mentioned the fact that he's kind of the only one to walk away from this whole experience with enlightenment. Well, right.
Really
he's changed.
Yeah.
Well, and I think there's something interesting about the fact that he is the least verbal because of all these external factors, and so he's more receptive to listening, right? Like naturally that is the thing, and so you would have to imagine maybe that's what causes him to open up a bit, is just the fact that he is, I mean,
Oh, interesting.
he is kind of opening himself up to all these different things, whether he knows it or not. I was just kind of curious about your take on that.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it like that. I thought that, when I would go to see the monk, and the monk says, and Tim is just, he's not been present with anyone else ever. He's not. It was a weird thing as an actor. It's always about connection. I'm disconnected from everybody because I'm having this internal thing where I know that the world is over. They don't realize come Saturday when we get on the boat, nothing will ever be, and nothing they're talking about makes any sense, except when I go and see the monk, and I say, what is it like to die? What does death mean? And he says, you rejoin the human race. You're a drop by yourself, but you rejoin everything. And at that point, that seems so comforting to me, that idea, but I take it as license to kill myself and then eventually to kill everyone else too. And I don't know if it's because I'm listening. It's just in that moment where I'm about to kill everybody, there is a moment where you either choose life or death. And in that moment, he goes, nothing is worth this. And it's not words, it's not anything anyone said, it's not what the monk said at that point. It's just, he can't. He loves them and he wants them to live. And then Mike being Mike, because he's a fucking evil fucker, makes me kill Lachlan, I think.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Having decided to save everyone, and he's the one I was never going to do it to. I think I've killed him. And the combination of those two, that is somebody outside the window. Can you hear them with a leaf blower?
No. You're all good. No, I couldn't hear. Yeah.
That in that moment, he just reaches for life. I was a drug addict for a long time, and there was a moment when my light was going to go out, and I just feel lucky, and I have no idea why. No monk said anything to me. Just at the last moment when the last pixel was about to go out, I went, I want to live. I just want to live. And I don't know what happens to, Mike just got him there, got him to a place where he went, I can't, I want to live. And from that moment on, his mind, because he's very agile, he has very supple, not whatever he's got facile, is that the wrong word? He has a very active brain. He's a very smart guy, and and from the moment he decides to live, he starts looking for reasons why that's going to be okay, and he remembers the words the monk says. And so when he's on the boat at the end, he looks at the water and he goes, not only am I going to be all right, they're going to be all right. Actually, they're going to be better. It comes back to him, and he hears the words of a monk, and he sees it in a different light. I don't think it's because of anything anyone said to him, maybe apart from what the monk said, but what it really is
yeah.
I know Esther Perel. Esther Perel, the brilliant relationship counselor. She's written a bunch of best-selling books, TED Talks. It's kind of, she's if you look her up, she's a woman who doesn't matter what she does. She's a very well-known person, but she grew up in a community in Belgium which was mostly Holocaust survivors.
Mm-hmm.
And I get this quote wrong. She's told me I got it wrong before because I know her a little bit personally. But she says something like, "You'd go to someone's house, and they were either people who didn't die or people who wanted to live." And there's a moment at which Tim just wants to live, and he wants the people he loves to live and live good lives, and it's beyond words.
Yeah, it was
Buddhist. What it is you're right. It's Buddhist, and that, being Mike, of course, he gives that journey to the man who is least interested in any of that shit.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, it was the most profound part of the series for me. I mean, it was this satisfying culmination of that arc, because it was.
By the way, it's going to be a nightmare. It's not like everything is happy clappy.
Right.
The family are going to have terrible times.
Yeah. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's like he's gone through it. He's on the other side. He'll be in prison, but he can, I guess, do his best to kind of guide them and let them know that it's going to be all right, in a sense, right?
I mean, all right. They're just going to be normal,
right?
Not going to be special. And they're not going to be protected by their money and wealth and privilege and reputation, and they're going to have struggles. And they are going to have, is he going to arrive as Yoda in prison? No. He's going to have to face the consequence of what he wasn't doing, and maybe when he comes out, he'll be, he'll get a job in a lumber yard, or maybe not. Maybe people will, bump him back up. But at the moment of the boat, he just accepts his fate.
Mm-hmm.
Surrenders to the forces at the play of destiny.
Yeah, and that's the hardest. I mean, it's the hardest thing we can all do.
Yeah, and it's a moment of it is a moment of bliss for him. There was another one I didn't really have any words. He goes, "You'll look at the water," and and I'm like, okay. And then there was a lot of weight loaded onto a look, I'm like, in the end, it's just me looking at water, I mean, I'm thinking and feeling all these millions of things. I'm hoping the audience gets it. Of course, because of the way he shot the entire 8 hours and what's led up to it, it means an awful lot. I'm thinking as much as I can, but you can't tell an 8 hour story with a look. You can just be in that moment.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I do need to wrap up here, but I'm going to leave you with one last question. I think it's interesting because I just think your journey as an actor is interesting because you talk about wanting to walk in other people's shoes in order to uncover like how to be and stuff like that. And I think in a sense it's as much of a social experiment as like what Mike is sort of doing with the White Lotus. So I'm curious for you how Tim fits into that larger journey. What do you walk away, I guess, taking from Tim that is going to help you, I guess, get closer to uncovering how to be?
Consciously, never anything. But does it stay with me? Yeah, because I've gone there imaginatively. I mean, I haven't been to war, but I've been to pretend war lots of times. Does that affect me like people who've really been to war? Of course not. That would be ludicrous. But is it something? Yeah, it's something. It's something to. We last met and talked about Mass. It's a film about the power of forgiveness, and someone who'd carried hate and resentment in his heart a lot, and that had to come to recognize that it was poisoning him and having no effect on somebody else who was actually dead anyway. What is it? I've no idea what things do or don't bring to me in terms of my ability to ride out this bizarre journey better. But there's something. I mean, there's something. That's why I do it. I think. Well, I don't have any other skills, so now it's too late. But I think that's why I started doing it, and it's why I still sometimes get tremendous satisfaction from it. I don't know. I have no idea what I got from him. I hope I get acceptance from him. Um, I'm always hoping to be a better, more content person and love more and accept love, and seek to understand people and not be understood and seek to love people and not be loved, to be a radiator and not a drain. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Listen, Jason, I could talk to you all afternoon, but I know you've got a bunch of other stuff to get to, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you for your performance. I mean, it is. I know there's a lot of performances in this show. There's a lot of people doing showier stuff, but your performance really, really just hit a chord because of how understated yet impactful it was in the overall thing.
I'm just trying to be honest. It's all you can ever be, and serve Mike's extraordinary imagination and bring that guy to life. And then if you do those things with some kind of truth and authenticity, then someone somewhere you can get something from it often, which is often weird to me, particularly like you thanking me. So people thank me for things people who are suicidal or people who have lost all their money or something, and as if I'm doing a public service, and I go, I'm doing some kind of very selfish therapy that I get paid for. It's entirely internal, but if it's of use to someone else, I'm grateful.